Želo mogu. Mislim ću nešto potrtako.
Što je ovo editor? Prvo otvoriti YouTube, možda video koji streama je dobar.
Show all controls.
What? Ok, a ovdje na YouTube? Da, vjerojatno je dobro.
Nekoga. Daj mi link, ovo gore, a? Ne.
Ovdje samo novo kao.
Sorry.
Ništa ne vidim.
Ništa ne vidi, ja? A da.
To što se tu stiša ne znači da ne čuju nas.
Ne, nisam htio čuti. Bit će feedback ili nešto.
Nas mi treba malo... A šta se da ti iz Meka odeš u GoPro settings i probaš zoomirati?
Mogu ga nagnuti. Malo previše. I spustiti. Mogu ga ispustiti. Pa ne znam, ako treba noge prezentera, ne.
Čekaj, ja ono sam.
Mračno.
Da. Onda da upavimo se.
Ajde. Ajde, probaj. A mislim.
Možeš upaviti sve na ovaj... Da vidimo samo.
Hodi tamo.
A to je bolje sam.
Oho, dobar dan. Ljudi, koliko ljudi. Kako su se stvorili?
Malo bolje.
Malo bolje. Ajde.
Na snimci se bolje vidi.
Može.
Okay. So these presentations will be in English. So welcome to Backmagic. Well, we'll talk about some backend cloud-based technologies. So these are the talks. Getting started with DynamoDB, using Firebase with multiple environments and enhancing productivity with Azure DevOps. And afterwards, after 8, we'll go to the cafe across the road for some discussion and drinks. I hope everyone will join. We reserved some tables, and first round is on us. So that's great. About GDG Zagreb, so we have a lot of social accounts like Meetup, community, LinkedIn, Twitter, Slack, Facebook. We probably did some of them, but feel free and please join as many as you can and want. Especially Twitter, that's really dead in Croatia. It would be nice to kind of freshen it up. And so here we are, 3 of us for now, and we're kind of hiring. We always look forward for other organizers if you want to join and help us to organize events and do stuff regularly. Then we encourage you to just reach out to us and we'll talk. And especially we're looking for sponsors. So currently we have just one sponsor, Fire. You have a lot of swag that you can take after or during talks. Some GDG swag and some swag from Fire. We're looking for other companies to sponsor us, like maybe with some swag, with some drinks for the events, cash, of course. And so we're planning in December. We're planning a big conference, DevFest. It's going to take the whole day, and we would like to invite all the companies to have their stand there and do some workshops, interesting challenges, talk about their products. So definitely, if you think your company is interested to be a sponsor of GDG Zagreb, reach out to us for that. And yeah, some other upcoming events in October. We're planning front-end plus design event. We'll announce these the specific dates later. And in November, we will have a Flutter event in association with Flutter Zagreb. That's also on Meetup. And here's a little quote before talks start. So, yeah, and now please welcome our first speaker for today. With an applause.
Ok, imamo nula bila. A? Šta? Da? System 32 moraš obrisati.
Evo ga.
So, welcome everyone, and thank you for coming to this meetup and to this talk. Today I will be talking about getting started with DynamoDB. But before we go to DynamoDB, we need to know what AWS is, because AWS is the only place you can provision DynamoDB and use DynamoDB itself. AWS is currently the biggest cloud provider on the earth. It supports over 200 services, and I'm not sure that there is even a person who can name all of them, even let alone know them. And it has 27 geographic regions and it's 7 ability zones. What does this mean? This means that in each region you have at least 3 ability zones. These are data centers that are not using the same electricity power and internet power from the other ones. So meaning if one ability zone inside of the region goes down, most likely your applications will still be up. It has around 400 plus edge applications and 30 regional edge caches. If you are building global application, meaning that you are hosting in, for example, in Milan, and you want all of your users in Brazil to have fast response, you can cache the HTTP responses and other responses in regional edge caches, meaning that you can serve them really fast. It has really good services when you're building your serverless architecture, from Lambdas, DynamoDB, Kinesis, ECS, Fargate, and so on. Currently, it supports 33, actually takes 33% market share. What actual DynamoDB is? It is fully managed service. This means that AWS does all of the provisioning for you, maintenance, and updating, scaling, and so on. I want to talk today about write capacity units and read capacity units that you can set, and on-demand option, because these are more architectural standpoints, not the developer standpoint that we are interested. We can say it's NoSQL database, but you have to define some of data structure as we will see later. It's also key-value database, sort of, and it supports predictable milliseconds response. From my experience, it's usually around 100 milliseconds and you get the response back. One key notes are, it does not support joins, so no joins. You can only query on the keys. So we will see how you can make tables and how you can use its specific things to make your query access patterns. And one of the most important actual part is that you can even use write through cache with activating tags, but so that we won't touch today. Why was DynamoDB created? Well, it was created firstly because Amazon could not scale on Postgres. They had built DevOps on Postgres, and it was too much and too hard for them and too costly to find out what was happening. So they created the DynamoDB for use case of shopping cart. There are people online claiming that it's written in Java, but we can probably know because Amazon is really secretive about their technologies and they won't say which language it uses. In 2022, on Black Friday, DynamoDB handled trillion of requests over 66 hours while maintaining single-digit milliseconds response, which is insane. And it peaked at 89.2 million requests per second, which is, I'm not sure I have seen databases that can do that. Now a little bit about me. My name is Martin Ilic. I'm software cloud engineer at IBM. I maintain one Spring Cloud AWS in my free time. Also, I have contributed to the projects such as Spring Boot, SDK Man, Spring Cloud Config, and so on. Lately, I'm mostly working with Kubernetes and AWS. But before we go, why would you want to use DynamoDB? Let's see the history of the databases. So, first concept was made in 1960s, and this was list database. So you had one list and that's it. And it was only because this became widely available, meaning floppy disks, so nothing too much special. In 1970, Edgar F. Codd published the first papers with the idea of relational database. And now things skyrocketed. First it was Oracle, then it was IBM, I think, and now we know the history. Like most of us, I think, use Postgres and so on. Now let's see the retail prices in 1974 for a 200 megabyte disk. This was $37,000, and you have to take account inflation. So this was much more back then than now. And today, if you check the last one, for 8 terabytes you can get $130. And we are talking about retail prices now. We are not talking about the prices that big players, big data centers pay when they are ordering. So we had hardware limitations back in the 70s. And now my question to you is why, what are we solving with relational databases besides persisting the data? Does anyone, why are we building relational models?
Rules. Business rules.
Okay, but
Filtering data.
okay, and why are you building relations? And why are you like having two tables, not one? Why are you doing the visualization?
To organize the stuff and
Compacting.
to press the request that we want and what we want and when we want. And
Okay, this is still valid as well, but in history, since this was really expensive and CPU time was less expensive than this time, we used normalization to save the data because almost records we point to one record and so on.
Compacting.
Yeah, but today,
Compacting.
yeah, but today we don't have this because this is cheap, and now CPU time is really expensive. If you take, for example, we have a lot of more users on that, and we are building serverless architectures, we are paying by the time, we are not paying by the storage. So single table design was born. As you can see, it has a lot of similarity with SQL database. It has primary key. Primary key can be, actually there are two types of primary keys. Simple one with just partition key and composite one which includes primary key and source key. And these are only keys you can query in DynamoDB. As you can see, there we have profile and we have order. So these are two types of entities inside one table. As you can see, it is profile has a full name and email, which order does not have. And this is the reason we put everything in single table. And when I say you don't have to define a data structure, when you're creating a table, you both have to define order ID, full name and username, and their types. So you cannot just like send the data in and you will store it. So it does not work like that. So one row in DynamoDB is actually called item, and attributes are basically just the columns. Columns can be type of number, string, boolean, null, binary, list, map, number set, string, binary set, and that is it. You have to define when you are creating a table which field is of which type. And your primary key, your partition key and source key can only be of type binary, string, and number. Now, since I said that you can only query by your partition key and source key, to solve that, we have something called global secondary index and local secondary index. Local secondary index I have not seen in practice ever, so I won't talk about it. I will talk only about global secondary index. Basically, in global secondary index, we can choose a different primary key and create another table out of it. But the table will be actually derived from it. For example, in new table, we can say that our source key will be now our partition key. And if for some reason we can say that status will be our source key now. And what DynamoDB does, they take asynchronously replicate data to new table. And once it's replicated, you can access it and you can use data from. So you can use different keys to query. And this is the way how you are solving new access paths when you are querying. So all the rules basically that apply to your main table do here. Only thing different is that you cannot use strong consistency. It is always eventual consistency due to asynchronous replication. And of course, you can create it on the same, and after time you create your main table. So how do you get such fast responses to data? What DynamoDB does, when you say put item, you say customer ID and order ID. Customer ID in our case is partition key, and order ID is source key. And now just imagine that we have data here. It comes to request router. Request router take the cache of our partition key, and it knows to which partition it lands. This way, we know when we are querying, when we are getting items, because we always have to specify partition key, on which partition we have to look. And one cool thing that DynamoDB does as well, not shown on this picture actually, but imagine that these partitions belong to this one. So when you put item, it will asynchronously replicate to other partitions. And when you use eventual consistency queries in that, you're actually keeping this and this and this as well. So you are actually using more, getting more throughput and so on. Of course, if partition tree fails, you still have this tool to take over and so on. Number of partitions, I'm not sure how much they use, so this we can. So how to query? Firstly, we have to set table name. This is name of your table. You also, when you're using global secondary index, you must specify name of your index. Key conditional expression. This is condition on your key, meaning you can say, we'll say later, primary key equals this. Sort key, on sort key, you can use greater than, you can use begins with, and equals. Attributes to get, if you ever use projections, then you know what it is. It is basically saving network. I don't want all of these fields, for example, when I'm querying. I only want username and address. So you can say, I want attributes to get username and address, and you will only get that. So you're saving the bandwidth, and so you're getting more performance. Is it consistent print? Defaultly, it is false. You can set it to true to be consistent print. Expression attribute names and expression attribute values. Well, this is something that you don't see anywhere else. It is basically if you have a query, it basically changes the names and values in your string. So you are not hitting the ciphers that DynamoDB has and so you don't get exceptions. So it just replaces it, like you hit Control F and you replace it what you want with Control F. Filter expression, this applies after query operation. This is extremely expensive to use. We'll see later why. Usually you don't want to use this. You can set the limit. This is the number of items or rows to evaluate. For example, if query gets 10 of items, you set 5, it will get only 5 normally, and scan index forward, will the query traversal be ascending or descending? So you can control your query access this way as well. One thing to note as well, DynamoDB query can only return 1 megabit of data. And this is the reason because you want to get this milliseconds response, and this is the only way you can do it. Now this is our table again, and we'll say, okay, we want to query all of user Alex Debris orders that are shipped, for example. And only way to use this is filter expression, because only filter expression can be applied to these columns, not also this, but I don't know why would you want to use this. And here you can use the key condition expression. So we can say key condition expression where user Alex Debris, public equals Alex Debris, and sort key where it begins with order. Okay. And then we need to say filter expression, and in filter expression we need to say where status equals shipped. But now imagine that each of these rows is half a megabyte. If you're doing it from descending mode, DynamoDB reads these two. This is 1 megabyte, and it will just return you the empty list, because filter expression pattern is used after the data is being collected. This is the type of this query. So we have DynamoDB query, and then input begins with. So you have table name, you have key conditions, and as you see my key, it is substitute here. This is expression attribute values. You can specify file, or you can specify by command. As you see ST, if for some case this is safer, you can use expression attribute names to substitute. And again, this is replaced by this. But here is wrong, here is correct. Now, let's go to the examples. Let me just.
I ask one question, just when we are in the middle. What are the use cases for the DynamoDB? You said that it's used by Amazon shopping cart for a shopping cart, but there also should
everywhere you can fit a single table design model. Even if you don't have to hit single table design, only point of single table design is to get in one request, get all of data in it. Instead of calling this, since there is no join, you would have to call this table, get user info, okay, and then get the order. So single table design is basically the way you get all the data. So for me, if you're building serverless architecture to save money, if you're building hard throughput systems, and some use cases just simply don't support DynamoDB, just sometimes it's just better to use Postgres.
So single table design, that's the
This is the principle. If you're not doing single table design, you're doing something wrong with DynamoDB. Okay. And you don't only want to use DynamoDB if you are new to it, you want your company actually to have some experience, because this is deep, like learning part, especially designing single table to be correct. Even the guy that wrote the book that I'll show, he says that he fails sometimes now. So, for example, to show, let's go to our, let's say, authors. And this is just the simplest explanation of that you want to denormalize your data. So this is just like authors. Imagine you have the bookshop, you are selling books, and you want to based on author, and you get everything, but you want to denormalize your data. This is the point, because it's cheap. This is cheaper than CPU time, and you get it for this. Now let's go to some more concrete. Let's go back to our orders example. And in this example, let's now make this thing that we use filter expression. Let's make global secondary index, and let's see how this use case can work. So let's go to data model, to our order. Let's edit it. Because of this, we need to add another column. Let's call it GS1 escape. This is usually the standard how to call your sort key. Let's add the global secondary index. It's here. So it's probably not working since there is no internet connection, but let's go through this. Let's call it order. So we'll select partition key customer ID as we want, and we'll add sort key. And sort key will add our new coding. And the projection type, we can now include which fields we want. We can say, okay, I want only full name or username, and that's it. And let's say edit. Then I clicked too much. Now if you go to our visualizer, we need to update the data itself. So for here, we want to say place and use the hash. So in DynamoDB, it's always common that you use constants, so like orders placed and so on. Let's copy order ID. So shift. And it's placed. So if you go to our global sector index now, for user debris, you can say where sort begins with shift, and you get the order immediately. And this is so basically global sector index. Now you're using global sector index to get your access path that you need. Now let's go to a little bit more complex one. How many of you have used Jira? Or anything? So most of us use Jira or some kind of. So let's create. Okay, so we have organization IBM Amazon and we have tickets. So everything is in one table. So we have first metadata about our company. We have our intuition with CEO. We have me. We have some programmer. We have Jeff Bezos who is admin for Amazon, and we have tickets. So let's firstly create. I want to get all of the tickets by the user. And currently, how are you going to get here? You get to use filter expression and so on. So that we will create partition key, which is IBM user and username. So you always know the username. These are constants again. As a sort key, we will use user and just normal name. And if you go with tickets, you will see partition key is the same, but we get the tickets as well. We get sort key on the ticket ID. Why we do this? We do this because we want to get info about the programmer as well, and the tickets as well. So we want to showcase everything. So if we go to our tickets per user, we can see that we can now say, okay, I want our organization IBM user Martinovic, and I want to get all the tickets, so I just want to say begins with tickets. So I get all of the tickets now. And this is it. If I want to get user information, I just begins with user, and I get user information. If I want all, I can just say bigger than, and use ascending traversal and go from up to the bottom. Say bigger than user, and if I'll just take this. So this is the way how we can show all of our tickets per user per organization. Now, what about if you need to do some writes, admin writes, and so on? Let's go back to our database. Let's say, okay, this user, like if it's for his programmer, he cannot access something, and if he's CEO, he can, if he's admin, he can. Well, for that, we will just use, again, our sort key. We can use our sort key as a partition key, and then we can use global section 1 SK as actually we can use this. We will use this partition as a partition key, and then we will use this as a sort key, and we will get basically per organization who is programmer, who is admin, who is what. So if you go again, let's go to here. Okay, so see, I want to get the admin. Organization begins with admin. I get all the admins. Organization IBM, I want to get CEO, begins with CEO. Organization IBM, I will get all programmers, I get all programmers. So this is the access pattern that you can use. Now everything of this is great, but what if you want to get tickets based on their creation date? Well, you really cannot, because you have to use filter expression, but we don't know that, right? So let's create another sort. We will create edit it, we will call GS3SK. We will create new global secondary index. Ticket. Great. So I think we can even use, let's use this one actually. So we can get per user. Let's see this. And let's use our own new source key. My touch is not really working. I need to turn my PC. So we save it.
We probably have again.
Yeah, I probably have. Yeah, because you don't have internet connection and it gets, it does not, because usually when you click it gives you that. So we have to update again. We have edit data. Okay, now what are we going to put here? Does anyone have a dot? If you want to get like per user, so this is per user, and you want to get all the tickets by the date, so by the latest date. We have created that here, so we can probably use ticket hashtag and this, right? This should work. We'll try it. So I'll just copy paste it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So can we, instead of like manually copying the data, can we just put some kind of expression like in Excel, for example, output equals this field plus this field? Because, yeah.
What you would generally do is you would write Python script, but this is just a small example. I'm writing Python scripts because what you can do is just say scan. You get a new scan which you don't want to use, but you use, but just for this case, is you scan all of the data in the table. So imagine if you have terabytes and terabytes of data, it's insane. And what you use them and you get the tickets, you just use OK update this field based on this plus this, and that's it. That's how you do it normally.
There's no like inbuilt solution for that.
No, because this is the reason why you need to know your access pattern before you build the data, the table basically, design the table. Yeah, so this is only to focus now. We should be looking. Okay. We go to our ticket date. So we hit our tickets and they're sorted by the date. And you can see, because DynamoDB is actually sorting the keys itself, you can use ISO time step and it will automatically sort it. So if we add another one that is of today's date, it will be above this one. So this is how you only want to use ISO dates and things for that, because otherwise you won't have sortability. And this is the mistake you don't want to make. I have read online, people have burned themselves so much time by just using this. So sort keys are your friends, and global secondary indexes are your friends. You just want to use them to make new access patterns and so on and so on. And you are reusing the disk and data, but it's cheaper than paying by CPU, since when you're building serverless architecture, you're paying by minutes, runs, seconds, and so on. And so our last example is a pretty simple one. It is just, again, to show the sortings on these fields. As you can see, it is being sorted by the number. And also note that you shouldn't, well, let's actually make this stupid mistake. So let's say you want to update something and you want to edit data, and you want to just put it as a capital. took the wrong one. Let's put this one as capital. It should be, well, it's sorting the last one, but well, if we had this, and if we had this one before this one, because of this capital letter. This is why in DynamoDB, you always want to like capitalize everything, so you don't get these mistakes. If you go to our orders, actually example, you can see that here it is a mistake, because this all should be capitalized. Because if someone makes the mistake of decapitalizing your data, it won't be sorted anymore. So you have to be really careful. And well, I have this if everything failed, but let's go back. So these are useful links for actual learning from DynamoDB. This is Alex Debris. I use some of his examples today, and he has really good blog posts, but he also has a book. It is a little bit expensive, but it's worth every penny. And for me, it's better than AWS Docs. So this is AWS actually docs, which are okay. And this is what I want. This is the actually papers that AWS published. These are like manifestos, if you know what manifestos are. And here they describe in details how DynamoDB works and what was their intention that they were building it, what patterns they thought of, and other things. So for me, these tools are mind-blowing, but I will read this one once you know DynamoDB. And for me, this one, first one, is most important one, probably, for everyone. Now, that was it. Thanks. No questions?
Why is DynamoDB faster than the normalized Postgres table? Assuming that we could shard with Postgres, right?
Okay.
And yeah, shard the data without like actually hitting the performance of Postgres. So basically doing it in the application layer and then having indexes all over the place that we normalize tables of Postgres.
Because it's B-tree, if you know. Yeah, but here it is hash. So we hash partition can be know immediately at what place to look.
But there's
Even
also
index can be used, but you will need to get to index.
yeah, but there's also a hash implementation of the index in Postgres as well.
Well, yeah, but I have never used it, so I don't know the performances. But from what I saw, DynamoDB really scales beyond anything I have seen. But because I cannot tell you because I don't know what Postgres implements. It's hard for me. I would have to look and then we can talk later. But DynamoDB basically knows where each partition data is on each partition. This is the fastest way because this is level one. You don't get faster than that. So yeah. That's it. Okay.
Well, I had a question of maybe it's stupid. I wondered how is DynamoDB implemented really under the hood?
Yeah, no, that's secret. That's secret.
So it's not even in those papers, nothing like the hint.
They give hints, but they give you like from what pitch I've seen you can have partitions and you can add all these partitions because you have request controllers you can just and you scale request controllers, so you probably have some load balancers to fit in them. And this is just my theory now, this might be wrong, whole wrong. So what they use request controllers just to keep partitions and they add them. Partitions they want because. And one cool thing actually the DynamoDB has is if you ever use push notifications, you can say like, okay, when there is put item, there is something called DynamoDB streams, and you can hit the stream, activate it, and then you can activate Lambda, so you can do some function and do something, you can put in kinesis, and so on. So DynamoDB streams are really good when you have to do actions once something is saved. So this is cool as well. Basically, AWS does all of the like ecosystems, and once you use it, you can skip it, but it works as intended.
Yeah, and question about the ecosystem. I'm not sure what is this this
But this is no secret product. It's free. It's from Amazon.
oh
And one cool thing is once you build data model here, you can actually just click and it will create tables immediately in the cloud. You can even connect it, like if you want to do operations, you can connect it with your AWS account and so on.
Is this accessed by some endpoint or how is the data accessed?
Everything.
How can I access from the some backend? I don't know. How to consume the data from?
Okay. If you are using Java, you don't do it because Java SDK is terrible.
Okay.
If you're using JavaScript, then it's easier. Well, actually.
Like, okay.
No, because you actually create the client. I wanted to just show why. The problem is that DynamoDB is that once you initialize their SDK and you have like DynamoDB client equals, and then you say builder, you set endpoint or region, depends, and after that you can say like query, you have to specify all of these things like table and things like that. But yeah, they have something called enhanced builder, enhanced client that actually does all of this transformation for you. Otherwise, you have to say, okay, this is, you have string, like Java string, and you have to convert to something called attribute value, and you have to say it's string. So imagine like if you have model entities, you have to convert everything and then you say, oh, this is number, oh, this is binary. And you have to convert, you cannot just pass them string. You have to like convert it to their models.
Okay.
And this is why it's probably so fast, because again, they don't have to convert anything, they just like, and so on. But you would use SDK, AWS.
No automatic endpoints on Azure.
How do you mean endpoints?
Endpoints.
You can say like in which in
Can
AWS
I
SDK.
promote some data view here into an endpoint?
Because you have to, you don't use GraphQL with this. There are, if you go to AlexDB, like for example, if you want to use GraphQL, DynamoDB is not. This is on a transactional database, and GraphQL is not designed to do this because.
No graph. Just want to some view with some query, let's say prepare some query and expose this as a.
No, you cannot do that. Yeah. From what
So I have to write backend as I.
Yeah, you need to have that.
Yeah,
This is why they push lambdas, because you just have lambdas.
okay, I can write lambda.
Yeah.
And I have a question in this SDK or maybe in some other framework. How do models for entities from the DynamoDB work? Are they like representing rows or there are some common structures?
Actually, I had this discussion with AWS folk, and in Java at least, we want to have one class, and then we have like other classes in it, and you just take that partition key out. And sort key, if you want, but sort key can be inside of it. And if you're using enhanced client, it will ideally, once you query, automatically gives you data in this class, so serialization. Because there is no other way around, except if you're, when you're doing single table design, because as you saw, like in, cancel, as you saw like here, in orders, you can get profile and order. You don't know what you'll get.
Yeah.
So you want to serialize both this as an object as a class and this as a class. And that's it. You don't do the relation because everything is single table. So there is no like list of orders and things like that. No, you don't want to do that. You just want to use this. You have top level classes. This is at least what proved for me most efficient.
Maybe a stupid question, but what happens if you exceed the 1 megabyte limits?
You get the data you have. Like for example, if this is 400 kilobytes, 400 kilobytes, 400 kilobytes, you get only these two, and that's it. And you get token, and then you can use, okay, I stop here, and I get this.
I thought maybe
Yeah,
it's lost.
No, I did not mention it. And so that's why you don't use filter expression, because then you eat your 1 megabyte of space. Because then you can get 0 megabytes. Imagine that event list. It's
Can you somehow know how large will the data be that you're querying?
you cannot know. Because it's mostly because they have limitation how big this item can be. I don't know how big they are, but it's really small. Like I have never seen a problem. I have paginated the data when user comes and sees all of the informations, and it can as well. It even has paginated query requests where you can just drag it over there.
And like, what is the stupidest mistake you can do to make your bill on AWS bigger using DynamoDB?
I don't like data curve. No. Here I don't see because I will maybe just like exposing your credentials so people have information to you or can put stuff and use your DynamoDB on your account and make you the big deal. But the DynamoDB can.
So you said like using filters increases, the
Yeah, because you're not getting, you don't
transfer data or
No, because they're gonna use the filters. And for example, and you want to use filters, and only this one is eligible, but you get all of these 3 in 1 megabyte. And you get only one this way. Basically, like if you can get it with all set ways to get all 3 of them, you're saving money.
okay.
I mean, it's small cost comparison amount, but when you take it on bigger scale, imagine if you have 86.9 million users hitting you in 1 second, then it is.
So like in small applications, it is fine to use filters like up to
Yeah.
1,000 requests per day or something.
Yeah, but you don't want to really do it because you can just close it. And it beats the point. Yeah. Well, only that you can maybe use filters. Well, there, actually, let me go back. I can say one more example. This one regarding the, not its task issues. This one is regarding, you can even set ETL and create that. So you can choose that this is ETL, so it expires data. But it promises, it does not guarantee you to delete it immediately. It can take up to 48 hours. So when you do, when you do put up the item or update item, what you can do is, let's say, condition. And you can put condition, if created that, if parameter, for example, if created that is like exceeded, then don't do it, and then you just delete it. You can use scanner filter for it, but let's say that PTL is not really an option when you're doing it. You have to be extra careful. That's it. Thank you.
Let's welcome our next speaker, Nicola. Probably after this talk, I guess we'll take a short break, or 5 minutes, maybe a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I didn't make a backup plan to get it offline, so.
Oh, I see you also made a typo, black magic.
Okay. So yeah, for today's agenda, I will present myself, present the problem. We will basically have a showcase of fictional error I had, but the error I had with compliant, and I needed to create a really stupid way how to fix it and how to solve it for a client. Of course, in the end, some questions and answers. So let me present myself. I'm Nikola Nekash, web team lead at Cinema Agency, working there for now almost 3 years. I'm coming from a front end, but on my career, I needed to learn everything, wide and on width and height. Everything I touched DevOps and backends, etc. And through the agency, I managed to do a lot on Firebase. In my first year at the agency, we had like 1,000 projects or 1,000 small projects where we used a lot Firebase. So, beginning with the problem. So let's say you have a Firebase project. It is you're building something for MVP for a client, and everything is basically straightforward, small application, doesn't have a lot of data. And after 3 months of development, the client, your manager, anyone can come and say, look, the client said like we need to copy this and use it on different type of users who cannot share the data. And then you start scratching your head, but we are using Firebase. We can't just copy the data to another project that easily. Yeah, but just copy it and we will update the first project, and after a month we will update the second project as well. Like, okay. Like the problem is we need to have one project, maintain the first project, and once in a while copy it to another project. Yeah, like multi-environment system. We are using Firebase, you can't easily do that. And you're resistant with that, you're stuck with that problem, and yeah, you get stuck. And there is I will present to you one of the ways how to do it. Of course, for that, for the solution, how to do it, already to not have this presentation that long, I created some stuff earlier, so we will have like 2 projects on Firebase. I will use the Fire CMS. So shout out as well for the Fire CMS if you are using Firebase and Firestore. Fire CMS is an excellent tool if you're building anything for the end user, for your designers, for anyone who needs to edit the data directly in Firestore. I recommend using Fire CMS. It's very easy to set up. I will show you later how it's done. Of course, I open up 2 Firebase projects for these showcases, and I enabled storage hosting and Firestore, of course, as we use it. The point, for authentication for the buckets, I'm using the shortcut because as well there is multiple ways to transfer data from one bucket to another. And in my experience, what I was doing lately, for 3 years, I'm using the tool GoodSync, which is basically FileZilla on steroids, I would say. Like it is basically doing the same, but you have more options instead of connecting, to SSH with FileZilla. You have options to connect directly to the S3, to the Google bucket. Okay, a lot of options. I will show you that as well later in the demo. And I'm using that tool to directly access to the both Google storage buckets that we created for our projects. Of course, on your PC, Firebase CLI needs to be installed, so for easy use, and etc. Of course, you can use whatever console you are liking, and of course, Sanity. Sanity in the end, something that I lost a lot of times working with the Firebase because it is, as I like to say, Firebase is a shell of Google Cloud Services, which is sometimes it doesn't have, it has own personality, and as well as some key documentation is very good. Usually you get stuck on there is too much documentation, it is sometimes outdated documentation, but yeah, that's it. So few steps that we'll do on the beginning, of course, backup everything. We will backup the Firestore. Usually, on the second and more step, after some while, you will always want to clear this second environment if it's needed. I will show you how to transfer the data. I will show how to restore it as well. To the GoodSync will transfer as well anything what is stored in the buckets. So create a build and go to the hosting to see if everything went online and fine. So now it's part of the demo. So I will switch, not notes. Okay, but not this. With a new tab. I became ready. So, as I said, I created here so 2 projects on the Firebase. One is the one, and I got a mistake in the IDs. So I found it out after I finished the presentation. I just leave it for this event. So don't mind me that. So we have 2 projects. One is empty. We already have one on. With already hosting our application on. Of course, storage is enabled. We don't need function for this, but we can enable functions, and I enabled auto notification, signing methods. I enabled Google and email, just for example, but and enable the hosting. So here you can see this is our application. This is Fire CMS. Just to quick few words about Fire CMS. So yeah, it is pretty simple to create this because everything is created here programmatically, which means you only define in the code what you want from the structure. You don't need to create a Firestore structure. First, you create it in the code, and basically, when you are entering new stuff, it will add to the Firestore. I can demonstrate that here. If you go here on the Firestore database, you'll see I have only products and users because this is only thing that I added on. But if I go to add a blog, just click enter on the blog, name 1, 2, 3, status draft, content. We can add a type of text, add a new content, and create it. So we get a new entry on the blogs, and if I refresh the page, it should be here. So we have a new entry. So this helps us because usually, when I started using Firebase, I always, created the database first for my LPM application, etc. I was a lot of things, creating empty objects just to visualize it. Fire CMS helped me a lot, by just putting it into the code, which I can show here, where it's very easy. Is visible? Yeah, please. It's very easy to define a collection, and through the parameters, basically, to the properties, we are defining what each document in this collection will have it, what is its type, do it have any enumeration in another collection. You can cross-select collections, and to have these kind of selectors, as I demonstrated here when I'm adding a blog entry. So basically, this status is defined, and we can have here a collection. Once we add it to the collection, we have it here in the dropdown. So basically, you can cross-reference in your CMS stuff. So let's say you add a product, and then you have an order, you can cross-select product which you define. So this is not what I can help, but just to quickly showcase the Fire CMS. Now, okay, we have this database that we want to backup. How to backup it? So as I said, we have buckets, and we are going directly on the Google Cloud console, selecting the Firestore from the menu. There is a lot of products. So, but we are selecting the Firestore. On the Firestore, we have import export. Basically, you will create an export, and here you can export the whole database. So this is something that you want one-to-one copy create on a new project, or you can export to say, okay, just give me the collections to export whatever you need. So let's say I want users, I want products, but I don't want blogs. So when you are copying it to a new environment, basically new project, you don't have blocks on that, but for the showcase, I will select everything. And here we are selecting the bucket. So now we are selecting bucket which is created once you enable storage. So as I said, Firebase is a shell for Google Cloud. And everything that you do here, you can see it as well there in the console. This is just like an easier way to manipulate data, to show, to see through data. But basically what we see here, if we go on the bucket, we can see here as well the data. And on the export, I want to select, usually I'm selecting the main bucket. And here I will create a new folder. Give it a name. Create a folder, select a folder, it is okay, and I will do an export. Export takes, it depends how much data you have basically in Firestore. Now we'll see it will be pretty short, it is a few kilobytes of export, but yeah, it can take up all the time if you have a couple of megabytes of data, but for my use cases, it was never, I like 5 minutes. I put it on export to make a coffee. When I return, it is usually exported, so it's not a problem. So now, basically, usually the problem to get here is what you do now with this data that you exported. Like basically nothing, because you can cross-reference easily between buckets. To eliminate this, I went to my cloud storage on the settings on my bucket and created an access key for my bucket. And I did it for the both buckets, for the both projects. I created access key, you get a key and a secret. And then I'm using a good sync, which is the tool that I said here. On the project, you can see here what you can select and basically share data. So I have these two accounts, there one and there two, one for each project. And on the left side, I'm selecting there one. On the right side, I'm selecting there two. So the roots of the folder, of course, here you can have possibility, to select only the folders. So it's not looking everything. And why I'm using the good thing here, I have the paid version. The free version have a limitation up to synchronization of 150 files, which is usually in most cases enough. It is not that expensive. I think for my team it was like $30-40 for a year license. It is not that expensive. And why I'm using it is basically once you hit analyze, it hits and analyze both buckets and show you the differences. And this is why you don't get this in FileZilla. And on this screen, I can see, okay, I have two folders. One is images for the products I have created. And this is one for the export I did. Since I have both keys, both access for cloud storage, I will just put synchronize and it will transfer the data. It shouldn't take long, but okay. It will pretty fast now. We don't have a lot of data and pretty good internet connection, so the transfer is pretty fast. And now what we can do here, you see this is the empty bucket here on the second project. And if I refresh, I will get images and the export from the dev one on the another project. Once you're here, just to showcase so you can see only here on the project, Firestore database is empty. I will go again on the Firestore on Google Cloud console and go import export, select import, and select my folder which I did, and there is a overall metadata file that you need to select in which it is written up what did you export from the table. Again, get an import command. As well, it takes a couple of seconds to import, and even you can go here and just refresh data, and you will see how it's being imported in. So again, now on the dev tool, we have our data. Basically, in the core, this is it. It is pretty rudimental, transfer to another project. But to come to this, pretty short transferring, I lost 20 days to figure it out, how to do it, on the daily basis, basically. And what is left? Okay, we have, of course, this one deployed. On the dev tool, we don't have it deployed. Again, we are going back to the code. Something that's pretty good to install, and this is the Firebase CLI, which helps a lot with using the project. There's a ton of commands, and one of the most used commands, of course, is Firebase login, logout. There's multiple accounts. This is that you need to do every time when you're switching out accounts and buckets. You can't get everything together working, but Firebase project list. I can see here my projects. Yes. And fetch new projects. From here to deploy it, basically, I'll now hex it. Don't do it usually, but I'll just copy paste environment and create a build for the version 2. Yeah, build. So I'm building the whole ops. We have some errors. Let's companies and let's copy. It's good. Since library did work yesterday. Show to extents.
dlib.
Oh, yeah, we don't have this one. Okay. I will copy it from another project. As I said, command failed. Okay, again, could not look. Why it is not working? Sorry. I have white and React builds, and I didn't prepare for white, so I need to do a React build. And basically, until it's building, just to showcase one more stuff. If you want to transfer users, this is as well common stuff that I need to do is transfer the users that you have on application. This is done again through the CLI, pretty easy, just with these two commands. Out, export, selecting the name of the JSON that I want to export it. Open up another terminal, and it will create a file here with our users JSON. So that here is my users, and you can pretty simple as it's on the same account, deploy on the new project, and just finish up this build by itself. It's not some better. Basically, the last step is just to deploy it. Project 2, one. So until it's building, yeah, hopefully, this is pretty short, explanation how to do it. I will go immediately on the second point. Should you do it? No. No, don't do it. Like if you have a project with multiple environments, multiple, stuff, and you're using Firebase, like be vocal and say, no, please, let's use our backend, our database, etc., our procedure, because it is Firebase is not made, like Firebase projects are not made that you can use multiple environments. And this failed to compile. Nice. Okay. I will push into this way that we have basically. To not make a lot of other problems. Let's see. Is online.
You ran the wrong command.
I ran wrong. Okay. Yeah. This is the command for pushing the and define. Yeah, okay, I can't. Because it is built with another environment settings. Anyway, so yeah, the last step would be like to create a second app as well, which is have the same data and same users as the Fire CMS. To go back on presentation, as I said, should you Firebase have multiple environments? Definitely not. I would not recommend it. You will have lost a lot of time, synchronizing data. And if you manage to do it, if you use this procedure, what happened to me, what didn't happen to me, is customer care. Okay, I need part of the users, so you have your export the users, need to select which user you don't want to transfer to the new project, etc. So this use case was like you had like one set of project, in the middle of the project you wanted to present to another set of people, but they don't need to see what we did initially. So we transferred all the users, all these informations for application that was like necessary to work, but the real data, the end product with whatever stored on the Firestore should not be transferred and seen each other between the users. And yeah, we needed to think of the way how to do it fastly. We did it 7 times, 7 different projects, and yeah, before the first one I was 20 days, for later on I was 10-15 minutes just to create a new projects, enable everything, and with the good thing, I always had this good thing enabled me to see what is transferred from the images. Like when you're using the storage, you can select which particular files you want to transfer, so you don't need to transfer the whole storage as well there. And said no. And saying this is everything is fictional. I didn't work on any project that was using this. Yeah, and basically that's it from me. Any questions?
Why don't you just use the fake data? Why would you want to copy the production data, for example, to the?
Because it is a real it was a real product. We had like a mobile application which was connected to the Firebase, and basically we needed to create a clone of everything. So we had a lot of data that was defined in the Firestore, which was application pulling up upon installing, titles. Basically, it was used like a CMS normally. And once you clone a project, you want all this to be cloned, not to manually again add everything to the Firestore. I think that's the questions.
Yeah. I'm not getting. Did you use the Firebase in some real projects or not?
Yeah, I'm using a lot of Firebase in the
why to hell people use that Firebase? This file is about push notifications or what?
Just like
You don't have export import, you don't have functions, you cannot store functions somewhere to, you know.
We use a lot of Firebase in this, when the customer comes, says we have a limited amount of money, but we want a big application. We need MVP to get, more funding, more stuff. Basically, Firebase is eliminating for us need for a backend developer. Everything can be done from the front end. Me and my colleagues, which are basically, like some kind of system architects as well. We can design, everything, design the data, and basically the front-end programmer can do everything its own. Of course, if you are using Firebase functions only for that, then you need a backend developer who needs to know more. But as you can write functions in many languages, you can use it when we're using a Flutter developer who knows Dart. He can as well create a function as well. So basically, one developer can, two developers can build MVP, and with that MVP, when we deliver it to the customer, we cut down like 20-30% of the time needed to do it from the custom code. Custom backend, custom database, you need to maintain a database account, etc., etc. We cut this time, and usually this is where we stop. We are not using in the large scale. When we see that application will scale, when users are targeting hundreds of thousands of users, no, we will definitely not use Firebase.
This is just waste of waste.
Yes, you're right. This is
MVP.
Yes, this is MVP. This is basically discarded after 6 months after the first round, second round of funding, when the real deal is coming up.
And if there is some enterprise technology for building this.
Exactly. But for creating MVPs, Firebase is the real way to go. Because it eliminates a lot.
But I think this is not MVP, this is some prototype. MVP is something different. MVP includes some users.
You wouldn't believe it, but usually it starts as a prototype, it's finished in productions.
They use.
Yeah, like a lot of time, when there is a not huge spike in the users, we will leave it on Firebase, and it will go live on production. Like mostly what we like to do is we have a private chats on the companies. They want to handle it. We basically now everything what we can do and not we can do with Firebase. And they want a standalone application for chat, internal chat. Up to 5,000 users. It is very good. Even because the Google Cloud is behind this, you will get a good scale, but I would say on 70 to, it depends how much traffic you're generating, but you can get up to 70,000 users on the Firebase project without paying too much. It really depends what you're doing. If you have only reads and write from the database, it's fine. If you're having a lot of callbacks, a lot of calls to Firebase functions, then this is dramatically increases the cost of the Firebase. But for the small project, hobby projects, MVP is great.
No, I get that. Thank you.
And I have a question about, and when they do switch to a custom backend, do they replicate the structure of collections?
No, definitely no. Usually when we are switching to the custom backend, we are mostly doing with relational databases or DynamoDB. It really depends, what are you building on, what is the end product, is serverless backup or not. It really depends, but in most cases, not data what is created in the files, so what we have in this product, they're not transferring to the new product. They're basically going from scratch up.
Not a developer's question, but how do you handle a client when you have to say to him, okay, we did this MVP, and this is in production. This is working for you, but now you have to do it from the scratch, basically, because we have to do the whole thing. So how do you handle a client that didn't want to or could pay enough to start with, to basically redevelop everything and yeah, scale up?
At that point, basically, it really depends. Like, as you know, when Cinema was like a small agency, like 20 people, now we have 100 people, and we are differently handling people, handling clients. Now, when you are bigger, you have like, you need to do this. Like, we can do this. Like, we are recommended to do this. If you want to do it differently, sorry, like we are not wasting our time. We are not cutting our prices. When you're slow, little, when you're basically battling for every customer, you need, like to take these cuts, and basically prepare yourself that or you will pay it or client will pay it. Like it really depends, what are you willing, to give, to cut down your cost, if it's that your custom solution, it's 20%. More than the budget of the customer, then or you need to cut down, initial cost, initial price for the customer per hour. So you get this project, project grows, it stays with you, it is long-term project then for you. You need to like basically, this is business decision more, is this customer viable with this lower price, for a company. It is valuable enough to go lower in the price. But yeah, basically, or you are cutting out the prices or the customer is paying. There is another option.
What if you have the conflict in the data? If in both environments there are data changes?
Basically, when you have a conflict in the structure, you mean like it will override.
All right.
It will override. Usually, what I was doing, I was always deleting these tables. I was pre-selecting the tables and transferring. I was deleting the whole collection in another project before the transfer. This is why I put, to clean it. And I saw one hand in the back.
So those two.
Okay.
So which type of project is more suitable for the Firebase? Firestore versus real-time database?
This is a really good question. Like this is really good questions. It really depends on how fast you want the data to pull out and what do you want, how do you want to link the data. Because as well as in DynamoDB, it is really hard, if you're not keying right, the data. In the real time, you will get into the trouble with the filtering, how to extract, the data that you need. So we are mostly using now Firestore instead of real time. Real time we are using only in the ultra small applications, where chats, some kind of sharing, where is pretty small amount of data, and it is really important, to pull it quickly. That's okay. Thanks.
If you don't recommend this approach, and Heroku is starting to bill the usage of their servers, what would you recommend we use in development?
Basically, like if you have multiple environments where you need, the good thing is if you're doing it alone, you will know what are you doing.
Yeah.
But if you have like multiple developers that they're doing, need to know, which environment, which branch, etc. If you don't have documented properly, down the road you will get lost. To answer your question, what to use, Heroku or Fire? I really can't answer.
Something else, maybe. Is there something else?
Custom.
Just custom.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it.
So I'm not sure. Do we have time for a break? Do we have like do we have to be until 8 or we can stay longer? No. Okay. So yeah, we can take a short break, like 5 minutes, for you to collect some of the swag here.
Yeah.
I'm definitely making sure the speakers get their swag until everyone takes it.
But some.
Može se na počet. Da nije dozvoljeno, da to ne smije više od 2 sata. A imaš ZG Park aplikaciju?
Ali ne prolazi. Kupio sam na automatu.
Ne moraš novu sad kupiti samo preko ZG Parka. Da je to opet dobro sinkronizirano, to je
Hoće to se sinkronizira.
Ja trebam za oko 30.
I ti sad включително инсталация на шалки. А он е да се това на болести. Тоест, ако više скаловали, еднак можеш да искаш pomoć džinđe, možeš koristiti nekakva naredbe. Ali moja jedna poanta je da ti
imaš transaction management,
šalje SQL upite na bazu.
Ja mogu ti imati nisam koristio sam
Mislim da za tako je. Za nekoliko. Treba staviti na stolce da moraju uzeti.
I
ovo je tip string, ovo je tip na to, ne mora tu zavi pasani. Ne mora nikada raditi optimizaciju.
Treba previše misati. Halo, bok chat. Vi ste 4. Troje ljudi nas špija, ali niko ništa ne tipka u chat. A ne bi trebalo previše micati. Mislim da ga ona tamo bijelo muči. Neko pali ovdje. Pet četera. Ohoho. Petero ljudi, to. Maksimum. Hoćemo. Ajmo. Zderis.
Okay, we're ready for our last speaker, Boris. And remember, everyone, after this, we're going for drinks. So just follow us.
Follow the leader. Okay, so if everyone is ready and seated, we're gonna go with our last presentation today. It's about enhancing productivity with Azure DevOps API. First of all, I'm going to tell you a bit about me. I'm a software engineer at Aerocast First. I use a lot of Angular, React, and .NET, but I also do some DevOps stuff as well. And I've always loved exploring the newest and latest tech and kind of dabbling with it, trying it out, see what we can use in real life. Our schedule for today, I'm going to talk a bit about the DevOps work items, because it's kind of like a Jira competitor. It's not like anything we've talked about today. Then I'm going to introduce you to their REST API, and then we're going to see why we want to do something like a custom solution to query the data, create the work items, or do anything like run our builds. And then I'm going to showcase a couple of examples of our solutions to the problems, and then we can also at the end share the ideas if we have some time left, or also we can talk about that later in the cafe. Yeah, like this kind of a nice situation today where we have like both Amazon and Google and then Microsoft. So yeah, it's like kind of like Pokemon these days, where you have to choose your stack and you stay with it the whole time, and you kind of like locked to the ecosystem. So first of all, what are Azure work items? So they're used to track our features, requirements, tasks, and bugs. So like what we do in our daily lives. We also plan work. We can use like different process flows, and then choose whichever we like, also customize it to our own needs if we need to. So everything is, like I've said, inheritable and customizable, so you can really inherit something like their own process and then delete half of the stuff that you don't need and add like tons of your own. Next that we're going to do is like maybe tell you a bit about the difference of those processes, and the main one is like how's the requirement presented, and then we have those four processes: Agile, Basic, Scrum, and CMMI. Agile, as you all know, like it's most about having user stories and tasks to track your work, and of course bugs for your bugs, yeah. And you have epics and features that you have to group your work on the top. Here's what Agile Backlog looks like in Azure. Then we have like the basic process, which is literally you have a task, you have an epic, you get an issue, you create a task out of it. It's extremely minimized, and if you have like a ticketing system or something like that, this is what you would probably want to use most of the time. And their backlog is actually, like it says, basic. You just have maybe like features that you want to do, and then you do the tasks like welcome string, work form factors, etc. Then we have like a Scrum process, which is more similar to the Agile, but here we also have like product backlog items that we use to track the work, and here's how their backlog looks like in the Scrum process. Then the last one that we have is CMMI. So first I was confused like what is actually CMMI. So I wanted to introduce also that. So it's like more of a way of thinking where you have like maturity levels. Let's say it's the best way to describe it. So you have initials like initial processes, then you upgrade it a bit, then you have managed and defined, then quantitatively managed, and then at the end you have like optimizing your processes and all that. But in Azure, it's very similar to the Scrum model, so you can see it's almost the same, except that you have requirements to track your items, and then like this is how their backlog looks like. So after we went through all that, so it's kind of a nice thing to see like how average work items looks like there in the Azure. So you have like in the top you have the title, you have who is it assigned to, then you have some different features like planning, okay, story points, what you have, prioritizing your items, then you can also tag and talk with, discuss with some people down there. And so we've come to the actual point of the presentation is how do we customize our processes? It's very important because a lot of people get confused at the beginning because you have to first inherit some pre-existing process made for Microsoft, the ones I talked about, and then you actually use your own stuff that you need, and then you delete pre-existing stuff, or you add your own custom fields based on your need, and also you can use some custom predefined rules that we're going to show later, of course. So, for example, if you create a new work item, you want to set up the start date as read only, which is only natural because you don't want to change that. And then you have like nice, let's say, GUI automation where you just say, okay, this is my condition. When I want it to be triggered, then this is the action that I want to do. And you can really customize it fully to your own needs. Then the custom fields, like created two fields here, like user comment and user grade, which you can use. Those like custom fields can be of any type that's already supported by Azure Work Items, so you can basically, whatever they use, you can use too. Then we've come to their REST API. Like, why do we want to use it in the beginning? It helps us customize our processes even deeper because, okay, we have our GUI solution there on our web browsers, but we want to offer some additional options such as automatization or showing just tiny parts of what we do to other people. And this is just an example of how we build a request to their API. So we just exchange this stuff like organization put the org name and everything else is as follows. Why I wanted to say this, like important NuGet packages if you are doing something in .NET, because they use actually the old naming scheme like Team Foundation Server and not Azure, because they're older packages when it was called the Team Foundation Server. Some older people you might know of it. And yeah, I wanted to emphasize that. So if you are doing something with .NET and you want to search for Azure Work Items, you have to search for Team Foundation Server because they haven't changed it for some reason. So what are our common tasks that we actually want to perform? First of all, it's actually simple. It's like CRUD operations on our work items. Then we have task automations where we have something correlating to our work items, like we want to make a report that's going every day at noon to some people, and then you just aggregate the work items and send a report to them, or expose some portions, as I've said, which you don't want other people to see, like those, for example, user comments and user grade. You can just give them part of your task, like, okay, you have a dashboard where you can give the people the part of the view, and they can just give you the comments, or basically just assign you the grade. And that's what I can actually change to the work items. You don't want to expose some external customers to your whole GUI at the web, or create some different users for them, where you can do it like this, in a simplified way. And also at the end, of course, creating some customized tools that can help you be more productive, let's say, in the simplest terms. So what actually can we do here? First of all, our spread operations first is, of course, fetching the data. So here, what we want to do usually is create some custom queries, and we only want to get what we need, because tables for those work items are really huge, like 150 plus columns in them, and you don't really need to slow yourself down, so you write the queries as usual. And here's an example of code which is done in C#. So you basically call the API via the Team Foundation server that I said. Here we get the work items by our query, but we only get their IDs at the moment. And then we actually want to customize what we want to get out of those fields. So we create an array where we put like ID, state, title, who is it assigned to, and the start date. And then we actually return what we want to return in the end. And of course, there's a question that you might have asked yourself there, like, how do we query? So Microsoft has WIQL, which is work item query language that helps you query to the work items, and there are multiple ways you can do it. It's available in the Azure portal, which I'm going to show later, and you can also do it via code. And via code, first little portal. So like I created a simple example. Okay, I want to get tasks, and their state has to be active. So I got immediately the result with like my ID, title, who is it assigned to, and the state. And also you can do basically the same thing with code, where you have the WIQL object, and you just put in the query. So like similar to the SQL select, so like select this is this from there, where, and your conditions. The next thing we want to do is create our work items. So we can do it via automation scenarios, and also, like, for example, you create it from some files or your emails, which I'm going to show actually later. And it's also good because you can add whatever you need, and also you can really add some things that you might not be able to add via the standard GUI, which is also very nice. You can override all their rules that they have like predefined. And actually, how do you create it? So the start is also very similar. So you get the connection, then you create a JSON fetch document, and you have three parts here: operation, path, and value. Operation is here we use the add, and path is which field actually we want to use. So here we have our title and description, and value is actually value of what you want to do. So these are some variables that are taken from before, and then you just say your work item, and you call the command to create the work item. And the next thing we want to do is like update the work items. So as I've said, the rating dashboard is really cool example for that, because you can just give them the option to edit only portion of your data that you want, and not have anything else or anything important exposed. Also, you can use it like for automation. Like if you have some external rules that can apply to some items that you don't want to touch, you can just automate it. And also like enhance some other tools that you use, and give yourself some more options. So here, what I've made an example of is like attaching an email. So you have like this MSG, which is output format, where you just, it's also again, like in the adding, you use the JSON patch document, and here the value is just a bit more complicated object, where you have a like relation URL and some attributes, so you have to add the name and, for example, some comment like, okay, I uploaded this at that time. And then you, in the end, you call the update work item method then on the Team Foundation server client API, and then the item is updating at the moment. Yeah, of course, I've talked a lot about the theory behind things, but we also have some examples that we want to cover. Some things I'll show you, some things I'll talk about what my intended work. So first thing is like the simple console app. I made it for myself because I wanted to have a really easy way to get some work items for myself without switching context. I don't want to work in VS Code and then open browser and then click through somewhere. I just want to use my terminal and then just call a simple method and get it all listed out to me. And also you can add options to it. So if you want active work items, you just add a keyword. If you want closed work items, you have a keyword. Or if you have a custom state, you can just like in progress, let's say, you can also use that. So it's really flexible in what you can do. So for example, here I've queried for the active work items. Okay, I got myself what I need, ID, title, and state. And it's really simple. You just call this command and bam, you have it in your own editor or IDE, and you didn't have to go through the hassle of opening a browser and doing all that. The next thing I want to talk about is Outlook extension. We had a specific use case where we get a lot of our work items from emails, and I actually started looking into solutions. Okay, is there anything on the web? And there was like a paid solution, like $50 per user, and of course you don't want to pay for that if you can make your own thing customized to yourself. Really, really good. And then you just create a project for Outlook, like the Outlook extension, where you just add some custom actions that you want, like creating a new work item from your email. And then you basically fills all the data from the email into the work item, as I said before. So for example, the body of the email can be completely copied and pasted into the work item data, like details field. And since, for example, Outlook offers you the HTML inside your email, it can be really duplicated one-to-one even with images, which is really cool. Also, like you can add emails as attachments. So if you have like correspondence with people that you want to add in your work items that you want to save for future reference, like if you do something dangerous and someone else tells you to do it, you really want to save that, like, okay, this person said this, and you save it in your correspondence. So it's a really cool way to do it fast via your email client, so you can do it in Outlook, both online and desktop app. Another thing, we had like reporting service. So each day at noon, you want reports on what are the new features that are being delivered that day. And then you just have certain conditions where you have like work items that were made today and that are marked as a new feature, and then you just get a list and you can create an email report basically that comes to you like a standard email, which is listed all the work items. And what's really cool is again the HTML part where you can build like HTML how you want it to look, so you can customize it to your full needs basically. Another thing is like updating tasks, and you want to do it like if you have some custom fields that aren't really working well with Microsoft, for example, and then you can just, if you have your own field, like you have different ways of closing the item. Let's say you have a closed and canceled. So if the item is canceled, you can send an email that it's canceled, but then it automatically changes to closed, so it's properly closed in the work item field in the browser. And then also like automated emails, like you create a task, you can send the email after you create it. Or if you have like a third-party tester of your task, then if they haven't responded to you in 24 hours, it can automatically send the email to them, so you don't have to worry about that. So the automated CLI app or Windows task or whatever you want to do will actually do that for you. And also like email to work items. So if you get a lot of emails, like as that you want to create a task from, you don't want to click them by yourself on the like Outlook, but you actually create, for example, an email address that is dedicated just to receive those emails. And then you have like time, you set yourself actually a time, like let's say 1 minute, and every minute you gather all the emails that you received in that whole inbox, and you just create a work item from each of them, and then you just empty the inbox. So you actually have a up-to-date job that's doing it every, for example, minute. You can make it whatever you want, but this is what works for me. And then it automatically creates tasks and sends notifying emails, or you can do it with anything else actually that has an API that you can use, so Slack or whatever. It's a really cool way to automate some things that if you have a lot of stuff that's boring, complicated, convoluted, you do it yourself in like under a day, which is really cool. So, as I said, work items is not the only thing that we can do. We can retrieve some info about our repositories, for example, our commits, builds, changes. What else like we have going on in our Azure DevOps environment, and also you can run builds via this API. So it's a really cool thing if you want to build like external website where you can just run builds if you have, for example, your DevOps environment behind a VPN or some other private network type. You just, for example, make a different website with all different authentication, and then just log in and you can run your builds or release some dashboards from the outside if you aren't in the VPN, for example. And basically, that's the whole like theoretical part. I'm gonna quickly show you an example of what's going on, for example, like the CLI app. I'll be quick, I know it's 8 p.m. So for example, I'm working in VS Code, and I'm not in VS Code, so I want to get like anything. So if I have to find a query, I get all the active items. If I want to get some closed items, I just write closed, and that's pretty much it. What I also so it's really cool way to not context switch when you're working, and you can get all the info that you need. Also, what I want to show you is like the GUI. So you have so you get an idea what is like the Azure portal and what does it have. So we have like different dashboards that you can make. You can make your own internal wiki. You have work items, some types of Kanban boards. It's slow, so it might be cool a while. Yeah. Okay. Boards, you can work through sprints, have custom queries that I'm going to show. So for example, if you want to make a quick report of what you can do is, okay, let's see, I want all tasks. And you just run them in any state, and you can add, okay, I want all tasks that are active. And that assigned to me, to my task. And what's really cool is it's literally alias for you. So okay, we got ourselves my current active work items that I have. So also in Azure environment, you have you have a repository, same as if you have like GitHub or Bitbucket repository or whatever. You can create pipelines out of those repositories. Also, in the end, the test plans and Azure artifacts. Artifacts are like your, for example, private Docker repository, private NuGet repository that you can access if you have your own like packages that you want to keep private, not to expose on the internet. You can just have it there, and that is basically it. I've also left you a couple of links. So here I left the example project, the CLI app that I made, so you can see how it all works in practice. If you want to just scan the QR code, this in the middle is REST Services API reference. And if you ever want to like check it out, what it offers, and in the end, it's my LinkedIn. If you have any questions about it, or if you want to share ideas, I'm open to it at any time. So that's pretty much it from me, and now for questions, if you have any.
I have a question. How's the integration with GitHub? For example, can I close a task or resolve a task somehow with commit message? Like, can I mention a task in a commit message and say, and will it close automatically?
I think yes. I haven't done any. I know that Azure has the integration with GitHub, but I haven't done any like actual fact checking over. That's a typical scenario, but you can actually use it if you have their own like repos. So I think that probably could be done, most likely.
Yeah, I mean definitely. I mean
Yeah.
since GitHub is now Microsoft.
Yeah, GitHub is Microsoft,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah.
Maybe repository behind the scenes in GitHub.
And
No, it's
anything else?
TFS.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I think that it's not GitHub behind Azure.
No.
For sure.
No, it is all TFS. It is all TFS that's renamed. So they also have like Azure DevOps Server, which is like your own on-prem, and their services, which is actually the one in the cloud.
I'm not sure what the Microsoft strategy is with GitHub and DevOps. Should it use this?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, I'm just now wondering the same. Is Azure DevOps paid or?
Yes.
it is paid, but you have a lot of it for free. Like for example, for 5 users, you have work items for free. You have like some things. I think $150 also if you're a student per month. You have I think only one concurrent build that you can run via those repos. Repos are here are unlimited private, also if you want them to be. So you have a lot of those features that I've explained actually for free. So what I've opened now is actually a free project that I made. So you don't have any issues there. But with GitHub and this, Azure DevOps actually can take a lot of stuff from GitHub. Like you have your builds here, and then you can take just your GitHub repository. If you have a YAML in it, you can just run it as your build here. And you are going to build artifacts or releases here. So theoretically, you can combine all. If you have like pre-existing projects in GitHub, but you want this to be your main platform.
GitHub Actions then? Why don't you use GitHub Actions then?
Yeah, I'm also interested. How come? I think maybe they haven't yet come to this point of refactoring GitHub so much.
But I think that DevOps is enterprise technology for some corporate, big or smaller corporation, of course.
Okay.
But GitHub is for for the
Freelancers,
population.
General population.
General population.
This is over-engineered pretty much for
Yes,
private
too
use.
much
Yeah,
security here.
So now we're running out of time, and we'll be continuing all the questions in the coding cafe. And let's give a big applause to the boys and Marco and Nicola. And hope to see you all for the next one.
Say hello to chat to stream. Hello. Ciao. Thank you. Goodbye. Tu si. O, dečki, eto ga.
To, bog.
And